So the WBC have ordered a final eliminator between Frank Sanchez and Agit Kabayel. This is to establish a mandatory challenger for their heavyweight title. Now, the WBC's actions with regards to mandatories have been very puzzling over the past 12 or so months, because you may remember that they originally ordered Deontay Wilder to fight Andy Ruiz in a final eliminator, but they never called a purse bid when the two sides couldn't come to a deal. Instead, they allowed negotiations to drag on for months and months and months and months and months, and then just simply scrapped the idea of having these two guys fight in a final eliminator. And instead of demoting the pair of them, dropping them both down in the rankings, and then having two willing heavyweights replace them in a final eliminator, they instead allowed Wilder to retain his #1 position and said they had no plans to order a new final eliminator anytime soon. There was speculation that they might have AJ versus Wilder as a final eliminator, but that never materialized. After Deontay Wilder lost to Joseph Parker, they finally dropped Deontay down to #8 in their rankings, and therefore he's no longer eligible to fight in a final eliminator. Instead, we get Frank Sanchez versus Agit Kabayel, which is a good fight. It is a good matchup, but it's the #2 taking on the #4. Why is it not the #1 taking on the #2? And I'm not saying that that should be Anthony Joshua versus Frank Sanchez. I'm saying, why not drop Anthony Joshua down several places? Because he's fighting this novelty bout against Francis Ngannou. Install Frank Sanchez in at #1 and Agit Kabayel in at #2. Now you guys might say, what's the point of all that? Sanchez and Kabayel are fighting each other anyway, so who cares what position they're in? Well, it's about consistency. The WBC in particular, but the other sanctioning bodies to some extent as well, appear to make their rules up as they go along. And if you've ever looked at the WBC rulebook, some of the rules are so vague and so open to interpretation that it's probably not even accurate to call them rules at all. Anyway, Sanchez versus Kabayel. Sanchez is coming off that win over Junior Farr. Kabayel's coming off a very impressive win over Arslanbek Makhmudov. In facing each other, they'll be going up against a very different type of opponent, especially with Agit Kabayel, because Makhmudov is obviously not a mover, whereas Frank Sanchez is. Junior Farr can move a little bit, he can jab a little bit at long range, but he's certainly not as fleet-footed as Agit Kabayel. Sanchez was very inactive for the first few rounds against Junior Farr, and he can't afford to be like that against Agit Kabayel. He'll need to be more involved, he'll need to get going earlier in the fight. He can't afford to give away rounds. Both guys are a similar height, similar reach, similar dimensions, and actually quite similar styles. Sanchez appears to be a bit more explosive, a little more athletic, and Kabayel appears to be a bit more consistent with his punch output. If I'm going to make a provisional prediction, assuming this fight goes ahead, I'll probably lean towards Frank Sanchez to maybe take it on points over 12, but I'm certainly not counting Agit Kabayel out. He stepped up to the plate and put on a great showing against Arslanbek Makhmudov. So let me know what you guys think about this one in the comments section below, and also the very strange methods that the WBC have for determining mandatories, at least over the past 12 to 18 months at heavyweight. And in fact, it does go back much further than that to when Deontay Wilder was champion. How on earth they made Bermane Stiverne mandatory for Wilder, I will never know. So yeah, let me know what you guys think.